Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our webinar. This is the already one of the many webinars of the Education Leadership Network Europe. This is a project, a big consortium. We started only in September 2023, and it will take for 4 years. We are many partners, 100 partners, and we would like to deal with collaborative education leadership and democratic decision-making and many of the aspects of this broad topic. There are 5 co-leaders of this whole consortium network, the education employers, EFI, who are coordinating the whole project. Then ETUCE, the umbrella organization of education staff and teachers, teacher trade unions, ESHA, the school head associations, EPA, the European Parents Associations, and from the student side, OBESU, the secondary school students. I am Agnes Roman. I'm the Senior Policy Coordinator of ETUCE, and I hear from somewhere some background noise, so I would like to ask all the presenters to mute for a moment, because all the other participants are also muted. And I would like to ask the participants that this should not discourage you to participate in this webinar as an active participant, because if you see on the top of this table or this window, there is a chat button and there is a Q&A button. And we warmly welcome if you would share with us your questions, your comments, or any links which could be important for us to know. But at the same time, during the webinar, we would like to open 3 Slido polls. And based on your answers, we would like to discuss with the participants about certain issues. This is the first collaboration among the European Association of Adult Educators and the European Sectoral Social Partners for Education, ETUCE, teacher trade unions, and EFI, education employers, because we think that it is very important to discuss about adult learning educators, their well-being among the general context of huge impact and influence on adult learning policies and huge attention on adult learning policies in the European Union. This is why we are here to discuss on the topic, the role of collaborative educational leadership to support the well-being of adult learning educators. I would like to welcome all the speakers, and we have 3 parts actually of this webinar. First, several introductions from the highest leaders of these 3 organizations, a presentation from the European Commission, and later on we would like to have a discussion and presentations from experts of the 3 organizations from national level. So I would like to welcome Uwe Gartenschläger, the President of the European Association of Adult Education, Susan Flocken, the Director of ETUCE, Barbara Novinec, the President of the EFI, Carlos Catolli from European Commission DG Employment, Rosella Benedetti, the Italian Union of School Workers, UIL-Scuola, Anna Scotts from NGO Trainers Association, Stop from Poland, and Carlos Vieira from the National Association of Professional Schools, ANESPO. First of all, I would like to raise a question to the 3 leaders, Uwe from the European Association of Adult Education, Susan from ETUCE, and Barbara from EFI. Why to discuss the role of collaborative educational leadership in relation to the well-being of adult learning educators from your perspective? I would like to give the floor to a short answer to Uwe first.
Thank you, Agnes. First of all, we are very grateful that you invited us and that you have a specific topic on adult learning and education in your series of webinars, because I mean, and this is the first part of my answer, very often adult learning and education, non-formal education, is forgotten when we talk about the educational system and the rights and obligations within the education system. So this is, I think, very important that in this case we have a specific event on adult learning and education. Second, I think if we look at collaborative educational leadership, we should not forget that the high diversity of realities in adult learning and education. We have a lot of very small civil society organizations with I think, extremely democratic settings, but with a difficult funding situation on the other end. We have public institutions with quite fixed frameworks concerning workers' councils, concerning curricula, concerning the settings and the arrangements of the lessons and so forth of the learning process. And we have commercial providers with very diverse situations in terms of collaborative leadership. So this is something I think we should not forget within the next hours in our discussion. But most of all, I think why should we discuss is the precarious employment situation for many adult educators. Many adult educators work fee-based, work project-based, work with limited contracts. And I would like to stress that this is not always the fault of the employer. It is a situation, the whole framework of funding adult learning and education, of funding non-formal education, which creates a situation where I think we should very much start with the basics when we talk about adult learning and education. That would be at least my attempt to answer to your question. Thank you so much. And I would like to excuse that I have to leave a little bit earlier.
Thank you very much for being here and for your introductory words. Then I would like to give you the floor to ETUCE Director Susan Flocken.
So hello and good afternoon to everybody. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm speaking on behalf of our 11 million members and teachers across Europe and at all sectors, education sectors, including adult learning. So very happy to be here for this seminar, because indeed we can see that at EU level and national level, there's a big focus on adult education, but there is much less so on adult educators and their well-being, their working conditions. So very happy to be discussing this here today. We are aware that, of course, at European level, there are indicators or benchmarks to be achieved, such as the 60% of adults who should be participating in adult learning, and 80% of them who should have basic digital skills. We're aware, of course, if we want to deliver on that, we need, we're talking about quality in quality education and adult education, and we need, of course, trained and well-prepared adult educators for that. So we're aware that there's this difficulty between the in this sector in particular, that we do have adult educators who are organized, I would say, or work in the public sector and the public sphere, but there are also many who are employed in private institutions, and so they often work under precarious contracts. There are issues regarding their mobility, because they have to be very mobile, very flexible in their working, being paid hour by hour, having to move a lot from county to county, or even from country to country. Of course, all this against the background that you do need to have a special pedagogical training, because we are aware that adult learning is different from educating children, for example. So for us, it's important that we are here together with as education trade unions, with the employers in education, and also with the Adult Learning Association, because we want to be talking together about how to improve the well-being and professionalization of adult learning educators. And for us, it's indeed important that we can do this in the ELNA network, where we all are together and collaborate in cooperation, and to work together on collaborative educational and school leadership, and to work indeed for the attractiveness of this education profession. So for us also is important, I would just like to highlight here that indeed FE and ETUCE have addressed this topic and are addressing this topic in their social dialogue, because it is important for us. Indeed, as regards fair salaries, as regards decent working conditions, but also, of course, the issue of permanent contracts for adult educators. And we certainly, as education trade unions, see that we have a role to play in this, in ensuring decent working conditions and in general good terms of working conditions for adult educators. And we think that indeed every adult educator should be a member of their respective education trade union. So we see that as crucial. And I just would like to make one more comment, if I could, Agnes, which is that indeed, as we have the European Commission also with us, for us, we do see a key role to the European Commission here. And there is indeed the working group on adult learning, where we all three, so ETUCE, EFI, and also the European Association of Adult Educators is part of. We think that the European Commission should be also working more on the well-being and working conditions and supporting us on developing that in the social dialogue. And maybe we could there could be guidelines developed, joint guidelines developed for EU countries, following up also on the Council conclusions of the Croatian presidency on the European teachers and trainers for the future. So we look very much forward to today's seminar. We think this is an excellent opportunity to enhance our collaboration on these topics and to improve the conditions of adults educators. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the rich introduction, Susan, and also for keeping the time. I would like to ask now Barbara Novice, the president of the European Federation of Education Employers, EFI, to ask the same question: why to discuss adult learning, well-being of adult learning educators in the concept of collaborative education leadership? Barbara, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this European Educational Leadership Weekend, be part of a webinar. Like already Uwe and Susan pointed out, the topic is very actual. And I must admit that as the president of the European Federation of Education Employers, I would start by highlighting the critical role that adult learning educators play in our educational system. These educators are at the forefront of providing lifelong learning opportunities, essential for personal development, employability, and social inclusions in the rapidly changing world. So the necessity of discussing collaborative educational leaderships come from the increasing pressures on adult learning educators. These face unique challenges, including diverse learner needs, technological advancement, and often limited resources. And all these pressures can significantly impact their well-being, leading to stress, burnout, and ultimately a decrease in the quality of education provided. So collaborative educational leadership often offers a framework for addressing these challenges by promoting shared responsibility, distributed leadership, and collective problem solving. This approach not only supports the well-being of educators by creating a more supportive work environment, but also enhances the quality of education through improved decision-making and innovation. By focusing on collaborative educational leadership, we acknowledge the complex ecosystem of adult education in the interconnectedness of educational well-being with the quality of education. And this discussion is crucial for developing strategies that supports educators recognizing the well-being as a fundamental component of an effective and resilient education system. So in essence, discussing the role of collaborative education leadership in relation to the well-being of adult learning educators is imperative. It allows us to address the challenges faced by educators, promote their well-being, and also ensure the continued delivery of high-quality education to adult learners across Europe. I'm very looking forward to today's webinar and discussion that follows. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barbara. And I would like now to open a Slido poll because we have 21 persons here, at least participants, and many of us are presenters and the technical team. But we would like to ask you who you are, because we would like to know whom we are talking and discussing with. You just see now an appearing window, and if you could just answer which is your daily work, what kind of organization, what kind of sector you are working. And during providing the opportunity to answer to these questions, I would like to open the floor and I would like to give the floor to Carlos Catoli from the European Commission, DG Employment, to explain us in relation to this topic also, how EU instruments can support collaborative education leadership in adult learning. And I understand, Carlo, you have a presentation which you can share now.
What I was using was just a couple of charts, one of which I will save the findings that it describes anyway, because they are quite interesting and they are quite pessimistic findings from the PISA 2022. So this is about initial education and training. Because the two has measured the performances of pupils, 15-year-old pupils in schools. But indeed, one of the functions of adult education is to remedy the shortcomings of initial education. And these results unfortunately show that there will be the need to keep this function alive for quite a long time from now. In fact, in all three competence measures, mathematics, science, and reading, it appears that results are quite worse than they were in the previous PISA in 2018. We can blame, of course, the pandemics for at least part of this decrease in the result of pupils, but the fact is that the pandemic doesn't seem to have had a major effect in such countries as Japan or Canada, where the pandemic was also present. So we cannot just say it was because of a pandemic. There is something else that doesn't work. But that doesn't mean that our kids are stupid. More likely that we, my generation, we are stupid because we are not providing kids with a good education system. So, of course, adult education is not only about this. Adult education is also to help adults remain up to date, to refresh their skills, to widen their skills. Most of this happens for professional purposes. It has become now virtually necessary for most workers to follow some training every now and then because technological progress has a very steady pace and a very fast one, and because organizational changes are also quite important. And everybody talks now of the digital and the green transitions, and it's good that we talk about that because they are really huge societal transformations that will have an impact on most jobs. It's not just about ICT specialists or environment specialists. Every job will have to adapt to new requirements. Think of how many jobs in constructions, for instance, will be concerned by changes in environmental regulations. And how many changes will be made available by, hopefully, technological progress that will improve our ways to treat waste, to treat energy. Now, here again, we see that the results are not particularly enthusiastic. Just a few weeks ago, the results of the Adult Education Survey were published, the 2022 Adult Education Survey, and we see that progress compared to 2016 is very small, just a couple of percentage points from 37.4 to 39.5. And as you know, we have set a target of 60% by 2030. 2030 is in 6 years from now. So in 6 years, so far there has been a progress of 2%. Now we hope to have a progress of 40% in the next 6 years. Okay, it's always good to hope, and let's see this as a call for intensifying our work. What has all this to do with collaborative educational leadership? Well, it has because collaboration is the key word. The skills challenge is so wide and so deeply entrenched in the European system that it we can only be able to address if we are able to cooperate, all of us, education and training providers, first of all, between them, for instance, adult educators and initial education and training may be able to cooperate better. But then education and business, education and trade unions, education and civil society organizations, which play a huge role in motivating people, in supporting people particularly people of a certain age, to be able to participate in training. So, of course, we do support this at European level. First of all, financially, as you know, the European Social Fund has allocated for this 7 year more than 40 billion to education and skills. At least 15 billion are earmarked for adult education alone. There are other resources which are earmarked as under the digital chapter, but which actually concern very often the development of digital skills, which is also badly needed. The current number is about 54% of European citizens that have at least basic skills, basic digital skills. But estimates say that about 90% of jobs require at least basic digital skills. So there is a need to really intensify work on this side too. But not only financially, we have promoted actions such as the individual learning accounts, which a dozen countries are now setting up, mostly at this stage through pilot initiatives, but some countries already have a reasonably well working system, individual account which provide each citizen with an account which can only be used for training purposes. So we do hope that the number of adult learning educators will grow, because there will be the need for more of them if policies will be effective and will really lead to an increase in adult learners, which will need an increase in adult educators too. So I think I can close here my intervention. I'm of course available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlo. Just a follow-up question, because you have just touched upon the most exciting topic, which you said that because of this intense attention on policy, but also EU funding on adult learning, you expect that there would be a need for more adult learning educators. And this is already the fourth webinar this week, which we are organizing on several sectoral approaches on collaborative education leadership. We had on Monday on early childhood education, vocational education, higher education. And what we can see that the working groups of the European Commission on these specific sectors have already been developing or already developed very interesting guidelines to member states. For example, the early childhood working group developed the guidelines on professionalization of early childhood educators. The VAT developed a study on VAT trainers. The higher education working group is discussing about preparing an initiative of academic career framework. Is the working group of the adult learning is planning in the future any kind of focus or any intention to discuss about adult educators?
Simple answer to the question, no. I mean, of course, we do promote an substantial increase in adult education, in adult learning, and we are aware that this also implies promoting as much as possible the profession of adult educators. We do know that adult education is a very diverse, not I wouldn't even call it a system, it's a very diverse archipel of different sections of systems, sometimes related to formal education, so very often to non-formal education, which often also to industrial strategy and other kind of policy. And indeed, the people who participate as teachers in training for adult learners are a very different set of persons. Some of them are actually teaching or training designing as their main professions. but many have not. Many are generally consultants, many are specialized workers who dedicate part of their time also to teach and to design training for adults. There will certainly be the need to increase the awareness of at policy level of the need to have stronger support for adult educators. I think this will hopefully be one of the themes discussed in the next skills policy framework in 2025.
Thank you very much. We really hope that this discussion will start really in 2025, also with the input of us, and we would be happy to have an open discussion about how can we shape together this policy. I would like to ask the colleagues to show us the outcome of the first slide, Paul. Let's see who are sitting here with us. Adult education, adult learning, trade unions, university, vocational education, employer organization, even others interesting. Those who did not manage to identify themselves, could you please write in the comment what you mean others? I would like to open on the second slide, Paul, because we have a question to you. And the question is an open question. So we wonder about your views about what do you think are the biggest difficulties adult learning educators face nowadays in your country? You can also answer as general in Europe, but it would be also nice if you could answer several reasons in your country. And while you are answering, I would like to give the floor to Rosella Benedetti for the Italian Union of School Workers UIL-Scuola. We asked Rosella to present some challenges and solutions to tackle staff shortages in the adult education sector in Italy and how collaboration, social dialogue, but also collaboration with other stakeholders help to solve these problems. I would like to give the floor to Rosella to you. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I will introduce myself. I'm actually an adult educator. I've been working many years now in second chance courses, public second chance courses, in the upper secondary branch of adult education. We have a long history of adult education. I'll keep it short. The adult education received a boost with the labor statutes, with the recognition of workers to the right to educational leave and right to upskill. And after that, collective agreements, and after that, the lifelong learning policies in line with the European recommendations. So now there is a framework, a legislative framework in place at national level, and there should be local stakeholders networks. But basically, we have public second chance courses, language courses, which can offer language courses to foreigners, lower secondary qualification on one side, on the other side, upper secondary qualification and vocational training courses. So there is also, of course, the private provider. Private providers, as someone has already said, might be a non-profit organization or for-profit organizations. And these are organized around a different system. So these are the two systems in Italy. What are the challenges for us? The challenges, well, collaborative leadership. There is a wide collaborative leadership in the public education system, simply because even though we are strictly linked to the public education system, we have to manage a different, let's say, different users, different problems. And so we have schools are autonomous, so are also the provincial centers for adult education. We have professional leadership in the sense that we have to set up the programs and other aspects of our work with adults. So that the positive is this adult-to-adult learning relation, which is completely different from the relation with teens or with small children, and the collaboration with a greater variety of stakeholders and cultures. We have to look out for our own customers. Let me use this term, even though I don't like it. We have to advertise these courses by ourselves. We have to do a lot of things by ourselves because in general, adults, especially low-skilled adults, are not aware that there is a public system for free, and they can get qualifications, Italian qualifications in those courses. The challenge is that we lack adequate tools and adequate learning environment, because our learning environment often the traditional classes. And we cannot change that most of the time because we don't have the money, the funding for that. We have poor working conditions. Why? Because we have loaded time schedules, but also we have overcrowded classrooms. So we can accept up to 50 adults in the same course. That's an awful lot of work, because if you think that we have to customize our approach to each one. We have a lack of recognition. People think that teachers working in this kind of courses are just teachers that don't want to work really. So they meet with other adults and they do not important things. Low salaries, that's for all teachers in Italy, so we have the same problems. We have a lack of specific continuous professional development. I should say also of initial professional development, because you might end up in these courses without having been trained for that. And staff shortages. And on top of that, we have a lot of bureaucratic burdens. On the other side, the private adult education system, they have easier recruitment procedures, but that means that people have even poorer working conditions. Most of the time they are precarious workers, or even people working on collaboration contracts, which means they do not have access to the same security contribution system. They have not access to many safeguards that we do have as public teachers, and their salaries are even lower than the public ones. And people that are recruited in these courses do not have to have a qualification as teachers. That's the big problem in vocational training, especially. So you can get an engineer who is unemployed and turns to teaching to get some money. And an engineer, he has the skills, the specific technical knowledge, but he does not know how to deal with adults that have dropped out from the compulsory schooling, and they lack the basic skills, the basic abilities or knowledge to go on in their studies. So since the adult system, the adult education has a wider scope than compulsory education, you can understand well that people working in this sector should be highly trained, but people don't want to invest their time in getting the training, in paying for additional training, because of the salaries, the level of the salaries and the working conditions. But on the principle, if we keep the discussion to the collaborative leadership, then collaborative leadership is at the basis of our system, of our public education system, not much in the private sector.
Thank you very much, Rosella. I have a question to you, and I would like to explain why. I was also working in the private sector as adult learning educators, and I had also the huge difficulty which was mentioned by several of you earlier here, the precarity. I had a contract to teach from 9 to 11 under one contract and from 11 to 12 under another contract. When there were learners, I had a contract and salary. When there were no learners and no contract, I didn't have salary. So what kind of support trade unions can have both for adult learning educators within the public and private sector? Can private sector adult learning educators join to trade unions, let's say in Italy?
Well, that's a very fragmented sector, the private one. While, as I said, adult educators working in second chance courses in the public system are treated like any other teacher. So we get the salary. If I teach a secondary level, I'm paid as an upper secondary. If someone else teaches in the lower secondary, on primary, on language courses, they're treated like primary or lower secondary. In the private sector, we have great problems because we do the collective agreement for vocational training institutions. We do that for vocational training institutions, but vocational training institutions, they tend to use a lot of collaboration contracts, like yours in that case. So people working on collaboration contracts, they are less safeguarded. They have less rights, fewer rights than the other ones. So what we have tried in these years is to put a limit, to set a limit to the use of those contracts. And of course, all of the time, employers, private employers, they complain because the funds are not enough. But it's not. If you cannot organize training abiding by the rules, so you should not. It doesn't mean that people have to be exploited in this sense. So that's what happens most of the time in Italy. Teachers are employed with contracts that have nothing to do with teaching. Mm-hmm. So that's the big problem.
And I would like to give the floor to Anna Scott from the NGO Trainers Association, from Poland, also to talk to us about the well-being of adult learning educators in Poland. And maybe if you have also some comments, for example, or interesting views on what Rosella was saying, it's also warmly welcome. The floor is yours, Anna. I don't know if you have a presentation to share.
No, I don't. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that you hear me and you can see me because I have pixels of myself. You can see me, that's fine.
Yes.
That's fine. It's just my side. So good afternoon to everyone. Let me share with you with my perspective and our perspectives of what it means to be an educator, an adult educator in Poland, but also internationally. My name is Anna Skocz, and apart from NGO management, project management, and fundraising, I'm also a trainer and educator in Poland and internationally for over 20 years right now. And to speak about well-being of adult educators, I wanted to focus on 4 aspects that I find especially important, and they are partnership in the sector, they are quality, recognition, and structure. And let me elaborate a little bit more about them. So partnership seems to be a key value, a key element of how we are operating with adult learners, we as adult educators, and to be able to implement it in practice and to be able to be successful in those processes that are education and learning and the self-development processes, we need to make sure that somehow the peer-to-peer interaction is based on partnership, and institution to employee interaction is also partnership based. And that's the culture in which we would like to function and operate to be able to ensure that this value and this approach is possible to be present and at the level of working with the beneficiary. So this is more about the working culture and the approach and the things that are happening in between when we are cooperating, how we are communicating, how we are respecting each other, how the things are recognized, seen, and whether the feedback is done or not. This is about the culture of functioning. So if we want to have effective adult education, if we want to have effective adult educators, we need to remember how important the partnership is on all the levels. Now I would like to move to quality, and by quality in adult learning and education, and reference to well-being of adult educators, I would like to emphasize how important it is, from my perspective, to remember about quality and qualitative, not quantitative, measures in adult learning, because we have a tendency to look for measures, how effectively we spend money. We want to have a list of participants. We want to have big numbers of people in groups, like just Rosella mentioned in the beginning, like overcrowded classrooms. And then we want to have effects, while the quality comes with smaller groups, with interaction, because interaction and the relationship with the learner is a driver for education, because the trust is built there, and then it affects the learning processes. The adult learning processes are very often about transformative learning, about empowerment, about self-growth. We need to remember that we are humans in adult education, most of all, and no matter how much we want to focus on KPIs and quantitative measures, there are individual processes, very often life-changing processes, that are happening behind. And if we want those, we need to have certain conditions for the educators, in terms of structure, in terms of all the other aspects, to enable the work to be done in a successful manner. And how important this is for the democratic society, for cultivating values that are important for the European community. I think I don't have to say to this community present here today. So partnership would be the first aspect, quality, and thinking more about the human aspect, less of the KPIs, would be the second aspect. And then I would underline the recognition of and validation and value of the work that adult educators are doing, especially in the non-formal sector, because we tend to speak a lot about the usability of skills we are developing when working with learners. But we tend to forget how important the non-formal education can be in life-changing situations of different learners. And we need recognition of that. We need recognition of that, and we need to validate that. We are speaking about it in our 10 points. And when I'm speaking our, I mean EEA, because I'm connected to EEA board these days as well, not just the NGO Trainers Association in Poland. And when speaking about recognition, validation, and the value of adult educators' work, I would like to make a link with the newest document paper that we presented in EEA. And Rafaela, if you could share on chat the 10 points for the adult education and learning in reference to European Parliament elections. There you could read the points number 7 and 1 about referring to recognition, validation, and valuing of adult education and work. So partnership, quality, recognition, the 3 points, and the 4th is the structure. And then by structure, I mean that for stable partnership of educators with the institutions, we need structure. And structure means among many, less precarious employment, as I have heard so many times today already. So I have an impression that like we all agree about that this is a challenge in the sector. So we basically need to invest in AL, in adult learning and education. We need to make it a priority. And when doing that, we need to involve educators in partnership and decision-making processes, so that if we want to see adult educators as elements of the collaborative educational leadership, we need to make sure that they're in a position to have a say about the situation and conditions. We need to build structures, and building this structure is a matter of making decision that we want to see adult educators in the room, and making space, giving space, like you are doing today with this webinar. So thank you very much for this. so that the voice can be heard. And then at the end, when we have better developed system, safer conditions for the educators, we may count that they might have life space, mental space, and motivation to work actively in the framework of collaborative leadership, and that they are no longer mercenaries paid by hour. That will be the key aspects of well-being of adult educators from my perspective. And if you have any questions or comments, I will be glad to follow.
Thank you. I would like to have a question to you, which I'm really sorry we didn't discuss earlier, but as I'm hearing, you also came into my mind that the European Commission colleagues said here that we would need more adult learning educators. But at the same time, as Rosella also said, it's not really a knowledge about to have qualifications on adult learning, and for example, to have andragogy studies. And when I was an adult learning educator, I only knew that I have a qualification to teach Hungarian as a second language. And then I was given as a young teacher 12 to 15 migrants from Vietnam with absolutely different educational backgrounds. Some of them were even illiterate in their own language. And I had to teach without any mediator language or intermediate language, Hungarian to these people, without any mentorship, without any support. We know that there is a huge shortage in general. We know that it's difficult to really get or retain people in the adult learning education as educators. What support do you think novice teachers really need in order to stay in the profession?
I believe that apart from the budgets, that budget will be always an issue because always the needs are higher than the budgets are. I think we need to develop certain working culture that creates conditions where people want to contribute and want to work together. I've noticed doing different things in my life. I've been not just an adult educator. I've tried being a clerk, public servant. I had my own company. I was just selling companies. I've tried different things, and I came back to the sector because it's the sense-making space. That it gives me the like most of my working time, like most of my life of the day, I'm spending in work. So I want to make sure that my work makes sense and kind of brings a difference and change to the life society that I can contribute. And I think for many, this mission is a very important aspect of their choice. And finances somehow happen to be in the background. Nevertheless, to support this mission and to feed this mission, to keep people enrolled and keep the motivation and prevent from burnout, apart from, of course, stable financing and less precarious employment, etc., I think it's important to work on what we are doing as our organization has stopped, NGO Trainers Association in Poland. So we are working on quality in adult learning. We are training adult educators in the soft skills aspects. So we are training them how to facilitate groups, not just in terms of the knowledge they're passing through, but in terms of how to work with humans. Thinking about relationship as the driver of change, thinking about group process that is happening behind the teaching classes, and that is actually a group forming circumstance that creates a group, supportive group for the members. And this is a resource. So how to address all those invisible aspects and make them useful for the learning processes and from the empowerment of the participants, that would be, I think, helpful for many, because we have a tendency to go to universities, study about didactics in terms of how to pass on, let's say, language with different activities and textbooks. But we forget about how important it is that there's a human as a learner, and we need to address successfully this human to be successful in the educational processes. Therefore, the quality for training adult educators on how to work with other adults and offering them what we are noticing these days, also supervision. So when they're already working and they're already having their situations, that different situations, offering them a chance to speak about those situations with more experienced colleague, like you mentioned, mentorship, we offer supervision so that there is a chance to discuss and think of how I could do it differently later on, but also apart from sorting out this certain simple situation maybe that they have to sort out, they also have a sense of that we are not alone.
Okay.
You know, and we are being a community and the group around.
Let's try to maybe discuss a little bit later. FE colleagues allowed us to stay a little bit longer because we had a scheduling mistake at the start. We originally planned all the webinars for 1 hour, 15 minutes, but we still have some time. So those participants and presenters who can stay a little bit longer, they are welcome to stay. But at the same time, I would like to give the floor to Carlos Vieira from the National Association of Professional Schools, ANESPO, because we asked him to present from FE side, from the Portuguese employers side, how they see these problems, specifically the shortage of adult learning educators, from the education management side, and what solutions can be there in collaboration. The floor is yours, Carlos. I can see that you opened the presentation. It's great.
Yeah, okay. Nice to meet you all, and thank you for this opportunity. So I'm speaking, as Agnes has just mentioned, on the side of the education providers. So ANESPO is the association for the private sector in Portugal. So we have around 156 entities representing around 200 schools throughout the country. So our main goal, our main purpose is youth education, young people. Nevertheless, obviously, we have the structure, and sometimes we work with the parents of our students, of our younger students, and we have this full activity of adult education. It was interesting, and now obviously, if we have some time to discuss some of the aspects that were mentioned from Italy and Poland would be wonderful. Let me try to keep the 6 minutes. So in terms of our private sector, the private sector is fully funded by the public sector, by the government, the state, or by the European Social Fund, depending on the degree of development of each region. So basically, the schools have to develop their courses and their activities with a framework that is adopted, but at least they have some level of liberty to perform their activities. This liberty is probably going to increase, and because we are in the process of evaluating and changing what we call the catalog of education, and this can have an impact on our activity. So here, in terms of teachers when I say teachers, professors, trainers, so let's keep it simple. So it's teachers, because the difficulty in Portugal is that you have to have the social economic, the social scientific aspect for which the professors have to have a degree in education, and then the trainers that do not have to have that. But nevertheless, we are seeing a shortage all around the world, and Portugal is not an exception. We are seeing a shortage of professors and trainers and people willing and available to work in schools. So how to attract them? How is still the model that we have envisaged in Portugal for the last 20 years, from cradle to grave. We have, and I'll mention that in future slides, we have an average age of professors of 60 years old, 60 years old. So what's the value added of teacher training? And do all teachers in the school have to have the same training? So it's a bit thorough, this analysis. So I've managed, I'm on the side of administration, not on pedagogical aspects, but I've asked for principals, for directors of ed schools. And so what are the problems that they identify? So they have difficulties in hiring of professors. They have added difficulty in creating the group spirit. They have excessive workload for the remainers, for the professors that stay. The age range, as I was mentioning before, is increasing. There's obviously a negative impact on the quality of teaching and the time dedicated to adapting strategies. So the problem is that we are focused on that efficiency that Anna just mentioned before. So we are pushed to deliver classes and time to the students, and short time to dedicate to adapt strategies and research. Lack of continuity and consistency in teaching and projects, Additional difficulties in specific areas, so the STEAM areas are increasingly difficult. Reduced funding, that's a problem that we have for the last 10 years at least. Exhausted teams, students and families demotivated. So, and mental health issues, not only for the professors, for the teams, but also for the students and families. In terms of strategies that they use, this employer school branding, this is the case that every company nowadays mentions this, and so the schools are not an exception. The importance of dimension. So people try in Portugal to go to the states, so the governments, the schools, because they feel that it's more safe. And this not being safe on the private sector obviously messes with the heads of the people, and so with the mental issues. Strong support of training activities for teachers and trainers, cross-learning and interdependent courses, clear evaluation of results of all activities. This is a problem this is not a problem, but a solution, but obviously requires investment on this area. Crossover discount, this is something that the unions, for example, use. So you are in a union, but you have access to other discounts or conditions, and obviously the schools are following this. Sometimes working with unions also on this. Increased number of days of compensation, that obviously takes people out of the school for more days, but obviously this is something that is important. Partnerships with other schools, integration. So these are some of the solutions and strategies that they used. And this was mentioned before, the mentoring system. So this we have to give professors some kind of support, mentor systems, but obviously we have to give them the mentors obviously some support. So these are in terms of collaborative leadership. Obviously, these are some of the highlights that some of them are already mentioned here: shared decision making, communication and transparency. So what I used to call accountability, team building, and professional development opportunities that we can discuss a lot further on. Obviously, two of the directors that I talked to mentioned the importance of ECAVET. So in Portugal, all private vocational schools are mandatorily obliged to have the certification of ECAVET. And so obviously this is important to address the ECAVET strategies and solutions for this specific problem, not only for this, but obviously for this problem. And so the indicators relate to the adequacy of VET teacher and trainer qualifications, availability of professionals, use of effective teaching and learning methods, and use of appropriate assessment methods to evaluate VET learner progress and achievement. So this has to be crossed over. And so just to conclude myself, some of the solutions using the ECAVET, as I mentioned, ECAVET mode, promoting teaching as a profession. This is a societal purpose. So it's not a problem of our own, of the people that are involved on these seminars, but it's a question of the culture of the countries, of the populations. Flexible working arrangements as possible, recognition and incentives, streamlining certification processes, industry partnerships, internship and mentorship programs, marketing adult education careers, and again, it's a question of the society as a whole, and cross-sector collaboration. So I close my presentation for now.
Thank you very much, Carlos. You presented very interesting solutions, but I would really wonder where would be the funding and how can you ensure that there are really working hours, for example, mentorship. So a teacher, besides doing their own working hours, administrative work, pedagogical preparation, doing the exams, etc., plus mentorship. So do you think these are really like achievable targets? Have you managed to achieve very, very shortly?
I think that these kind of forums are important to address and to give outputs to the decision maker people, because in fact, and I'm involved in collective bargaining here in Portugal on the side of the vocational schools, and the funding obviously focus again, as I mentioned before, not only on giving hours to students, spending hours in class with students. Again, the problems that you, Agnes, mentioned, that sometimes we have to have different contracts for the same person because there are different kinds of funding. So this is bizarre, and I don't think it's a problem just only in Portugal. I thought it was, but again, I noticed that it is not. And the fact is that we should be able to address, and this is something that we discuss with the unions, but again, we and the unions have to address the decision makers to have the possibility, and obviously they need some kind of framework that is possible to address the funding in order to have the possibility of providing the hours of research, mentorship, everything that is needed, or else we will have a lot of problems, and again without professors just to be able and to be willing to work with us.
Thank you very much for this extremely important contribution and for your ideas. I would like to ask the colleagues here from the coordination team to present us the challenges topic. What were the responses of here the participants? What do you think are the biggest difficulties adult learning educators face nowadays in your country? And as you can see, as many people answered, as big is the answer. So low salaries, precarity, status recognition, professional development, no system solutions, staff shortages, no structure, project to project, precarious contracts, precarious pay, no time, not enough time. I think we kind of covered all of this. But if you have anything, what would you highlight the most? What would be that one issue which you would highlight it? Because I would like to ask who would like to start. Maybe Rosella, yes?
Since I've been in the adult learning working group of the Commission since 2013, I've heard a lot of nice things and nice projects and plans and resolutions. The thing is that there is no clear commitment at national level to adult education in most of our countries. They say we need it. But then in the end, the only adults that keep on participating in adult education initiatives are the ones who are already medium to high skilled adults, people that do not really need to be motivated or do not really need the very, very rich learning environments or particular learning environments. They know what they want, they know what they need, and they know how to find it. The thing is that we are leaving behind many low-skilled adults, and we have to bear in mind the demographic issue, the demographic challenge. People are getting older and older. That doesn't mean that they cannot work, but that means also that they need more skills. And most of the people still working at from let's say from 55 to 77, like in my country, they lack basic skills to keep up with innovation, with the transformation of society and labor market. That's what we need. We need to be really committed to adult education and find the appropriate resources.
Thank you. We are a little bit over time, but I would like to ask the colleagues to open the Slido questions 3 because it's also interesting. And while the participants are answering to this one, I would like to ask your views, dear speakers. What do you think are the ingredients of good collaborative educational leadership in the adult learning sector in your country? And you mentioned several already, but what would be those 1 or 2 key elements which you personally would like to underline? Maybe Carlos.
I think we all agree on mentoring. So I think the fact that this not only helps the newcomers and also the ones that are still there. So everybody needs mentoring, even the board members, and so I think that this should be the focus. And with this, a lot of things will come. Obviously, low salaries are a problem, so we cannot think about mentoring and having low salaries, but that's something that obviously we have to address. But in fact, I think we should have time for every person in the organization.
Thank you. Anna, what were your main highlights and suggestions of the key to self-collaborative leadership?
I believe that apart from finances, which always be a topic, I think the working culture is absolutely important. So how the dialogue is implemented, whether the people are listened to, and whether the issues raised are recognized, and even if then there's no possibility always to follow all of the requests, to get feedback and to send feedback, what is possible, why this is not possible, to build this partnership and collaborative culture of functioning together, because at the end of the day we are in different places, but we all are trying to contribute for the wealth and well-being of our society. And I think you have this as a point of reference. We are working together.
Mm-hmm. There is a question here in the comments. Is anywhere programs for teachers to reach the competencies for work with adults? I have a feeling that Borka's question is about, like, are there specific qualifications, programs at universities, for example, to be adult learning educators? And I guess in Poland, yes, there are, right, Anna?
Yes, I'm just typing on the chat the link to our website. So we are offering, for example, we are offering in informal dimension a 1-year-long school for adult educators. But we also recently developed programs, shorter programs of 1 week, so they can have some inputs for adult educators that are run in English. So this could be an option if you would like to see how we are working and what we are doing. We are offering those, and I'm posting the link where. Yes, apart from university degrees, we are non-formal educators and we are showing how to work with humans. And this is something we're doing well, and I believe we should be stop sending it out to Europe or sharing with this, because I believe we're really good in that.
Thank you. Let's see the answers to the third Slido question, and we really have to stop soon. If the colleagues could open the answers. What do you think are the ingredients of good collaborative education leadership? Social dialogue, stable contract, partnership, respect, and many others. Quality control, teamwork, strong NGO support, communication. What is your opinion? And this would be also my final answer and your final word to ask, what is your opinion on this? And very shortly, what would you have your message to member states and the European Union institutions on supporting well-being of adult learning educators? Firstly, maybe Rosella.
Well, again, if I have to speak to the European Union institutions, I would tell them that they should hear more from the stakeholders when they prepare the reports and when they, let's say, set up country recommendations in the European semester process, because we cannot achieve the targets that are set in the European education area strategy if you don't put a lot of pressure on member states. Member states, they tend to say, we've done all we can, we are using the European ESF plus funds for all kind of training, but these are all projects that are not linked with each other, that often do not contribute to the general policy. They might contribute to personal development for people, but we do not have data about the increase of numbers in the numbers of adults with low skills participating in education. Rather, we have data that there is no increase at all for low skilled. I mean, because if you take high skilled or medium skilled people, that they do participate, they do attend. That's my message to European institutions.
Thank you very much. Anna, what would be your message and what is your view on this outcome?
I believe that seeing ALE, adult learning education, as a strong element of European society, there needs to be a decision that we want to have ALE strong. And decision means that we are allocating our attention, our actions, and all our resources into having AL strong. So when the decision is there that we want it, it's possible to be done. The decision has to be made.
Thank you very much. And Carlos, your final words. What would you like to tell the member states and the Commission or the European institutions in general?
I think, yeah, just to clear this out, I think all the strategic focus that the European Union sometimes most of the times has, for example, digital and green skills, and all obviously have to have a big percentage of the funding and of the support has to be on addressing the education and training, not only for adults but also for youth. And obviously that has to be a support for the professors that are in the system in order to adapt. So I think it should be part of each one of the strategic goals that is presented by the European Commission and by the member states.
Thank you very much. I would like to summarize that basically what we are saying is that indeed adult educators need support. We need to see the whole system and funding and dialogue and partnership in order really to ensure that adult learning educators have better working conditions and better contracts, because this is also a key element to ensure better adult learning for everyone. But I also would like to take out that I think this is a very important collaboration among us as three organizations, but we need to continue this partnership. We need to continue this discussion among us. And we, as all our three organizations, are members of the European Commission Adult Learning Working Group. I really hope that we can also continue the more in-depth discussion with the European Commission to set up the priorities after the 2025 European education area targets, and to have more emphasis on adult learning educators and kind of a guidelines maybe presented to member states how to support adult learning educators. So definitely we should keep up our good cooperation. We should have maybe another event with maybe other stakeholders involved, even the parents and others in the ELNA network. Thank you very much, all of you, for your active role here. Thank you for your your ideas. I also would like to thank the participants, and I would like to motivate you to participate and register to other ELNA events. And I forgot to thank in the previous three webinars, but of course I thank them informally also, but also would like to do it in front of everyone. I really would like to thank the ELNA coordinator, Sylvia, Axel, and Valentina, for their excellent support of setting up the Slido polls, of cooperating with the speakers also concerning communication. And I really hope that we will keep in touch and continue this communication among us. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.